Let's ride. Go ahead. Give me up the signal so I can. What's going on, everybody? It's yours truly, Alphacology, Mufasa. I'm back in the building, starting once again, my Alphacology podcast, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, locking in with me. As usual, let's be the most alpha version of ourselves. And I like to thank all my supporters. Shout out to Urban Studios for the cameras, making me look crispy. I appreciate that. And shout out to moms and pops for creating such a great young man. Well, if I look, if you don't love you, who else will? So that's how I look at it. If I don't love me, who else will? You gotta love yourself correctly. And lately I've been thinking, right? Um, how we get to the next level, especially as you trying to be the most alpha version of yourself, the best version of yourself. I like to say alpha version. Um, how do we get to the next level? And when I say next level, you know what I mean. The next goal, the next, the next step, new levels, new devils, all of that. The next take on the next challenge. And some of us, we get, how can I say this? We get kind of complacent. And complacency, I feel like this: when you get complacent, you ain't really living life. You know, you got the life you want to live, and then you got the life you living. And some of us, we make the life we want to live. Are you living your life, or is your life living you? It's all up to how you see it. And a lot of us, when you're trying to be the best you can be, you gotta, get to the next version of yourself. And the next version of yourself can be completely different from what you already been doing, what you already been experiencing. And I've been realizing that. And sometimes, old habits die hard. You like to hold on to things, and which brings me to, how do we get to the next level? And I thought about it, you know, as I usually think on Alphacology, man. I'm like, man, how do I get to the next level? What am I missing? And I'm gonna be honest with you. A man's next level is usually hidden behind the conversation he avoids having, right? You gotta be, and sometimes that conversation ain't with other people, it's with yourself. You gotta be real with yourself. And I understand, you know, as we go on in life, I understand that sometimes having that conversation with yourself is hard to have. It's hard to it's hard to have. So you drown it out, you overstimulate yourself, you avoid all type of stuff, right? So I always say this, I start out with, you know, how do I do this? How do I get to that next level? Sometimes that conversation has to be had. And how do you have that conversation? I want to say this. It starts out with an apology. Whether you're apologizing to that person, whether you're apologizing to yourself, I'm very hard on myself. So I apologize to myself all the time. And I apologize to her I need to apologize for. I called my dad the other day and I told him, I'm sorry for not listening to you all the time, and I see where I did wrong. And I had to have that quick little conversation, and I had to say what I had to say in order for me to get to the next level. Because believe it or not, the longer you live life, the more mental it becomes. It doesn't become physical anymore. Like, when you're playing sports and you playing football, like me, I used to play football. To get to the next level, you had to get bigger. You had to get faster. You had to get stronger. It was right there in your face. Okay, you want to be a better player? I got to get bigger. I got to get back faster. I got to get stronger. And we always put the physical, the attainable, the easy stuff right there in your face, when really to get to the next level, a lot of it comes from the mind. You got to learn the game faster. You got to learn to get strong. Same thing with life. You got to learn life faster. You got to learn life stronger. You got to be quicker on your feet. You got to learn from your mistakes. So I started to look at that. So I dropped down a couple things to help us behind that conversation because you need that conversation to get to the next level. So the first one is the apology. Hey, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have did this. I know, apology is usually just straight up accountability. You get what I'm saying? Then the next part, dang, what's the next part? Shoot, I would say the next part to get to the next level, when you having that conversation, a good conversation about getting to the next level, it has to be the apology. Then it has to be discipline. Yes, I believe discipline separates a lot of men from the boys. We get lost in that because that discipline, you got to put down things you love. Sometimes you got to be able to fight off the things you desire. Sometimes you got to be able to just change your desires. And that's in the mindset of discipline. And it's hard to do. Like I was just explaining to shout out to my cameraman. I was like, he was like, man, I'm trying to get some waves in my head, da 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 da. And I said, it takes consistency. And he was like, yeah, I know. And the consistency it takes to get, a couple waves going, it takes a while. It takes consistency. So when I see a young man, he got waves in his head, I know you consistent. I know you had that mindset. So, I gave him a couple pointers. I say, this algorithm, you got to manipulate your algorithm to remind you of things you should be doing. If you're going to be on the internet half of your day, you might as well manipulate your algorithm to put things in your head that you need to be doing. So if you want to get, for example, better waves in your head, or you want to start getting waves, and so you start brushing, hey, start liking those wave videos. You want to start hitting the gym a little bit more than you should. Start liking those gym videos. It's really that simple, to remind you where you want to be. So when you have that discipline, the conversation starts to, once you lay out the apology, then you'll lay out the discipline, then you'll see where it goes, right? And discipline is a very, very big thing, especially with me, right? Because discipline, to me, when I hear the word discipline, I hear the word consistency. And that's what it usually is, whether it's a routine, whether it's something that you got to always do. Like me, if I want to make podcasts, I haven't been disciplined enough to take Alphacology podcast to the level it should be. So when I do, I let you guys know that, dang, I got to get my discipline in order. That's me just being consistent. You get what I'm saying? So I got to hold myself accountable for that. I got to apologize to myself. And that's something that is an ongoing process. Like I said, sometimes I'm the most alpha version of myself, and sometimes I'm not. I'm a human being just like everybody else. Now, the other part of that conversation you need to have is the boundary. Whatever that boundary is, like, man, I cannot do this. I cannot go here. No matter what happens, I cannot revert back to this way or that way. And discipline and the boundary go in the same thing. You got to set your boundary. I can't let this person come back in my life because, maybe it's a weakness. Maybe she's a weakness for you. Maybe he's a weakness for you, the wrong type of crowd. So you got to set your boundaries and realize where you're going. I had to drop a lot of people who I didn't want to drop because I liked them. I loved them. I always wanted to look out for them, but I had to let them go because they was holding me down and they weren't helping me stay disciplined. So everybody in my life that I choose to bring into my life, I know they'll help me stay disciplined. I keep them on point on, hey, this is my goal. This is what I want to do. I want to lose weight. I want to get bigger. I want to get faster or stronger. those people remind me every day. You have to wake up consistently every day with things that remind you of your goal. That's it. That's how we're gonna do that. And yeah, it might get annoying, but it's gonna pay off in the long run. So now, when I'm having this conversation to get to the next level, I, you know, I believe in the Most High. I'm a child of God. I'm trying to level up to a man of God the best way I can. And I have to say this: when you have that conversation, you got to come up with a prayer. You know what I'm saying? You got to come up with a prayer that you want to bring up to the Most High, and whatever it is, bless me to have the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding, the power, the fearlessness to get there. And you pray that every day. You have your affirmations every day, and you be ready to go. Prayer really changed your life. You know, the affirmations really do change your life. So I want you guys to understand that. If you say it, you speak it, it becomes real. Just it's a reason why, and I hate to put this out there. I know we all are conspiracy theorists a little bit, but it's a reason why that 51% of the internet is fake. I just read something that said 51% of the internet on social media are bots. And I'm trying to figure out, why would they make fake profiles, saying the same things over and over and over and over, and making these fake profiles to help these politicians, to help, society. And sometimes it's not even to help, it's just to get, every time you see something online, sometimes it's just to get you to get used to seeing it. If you see it and hear it enough, you'll start to think it's reality. And I think they figured that out. And I think we're kind of catching up on it. But when I heard that, Twitter, social media, Facebook, they have all these bots that are fake pages, fake AI stuff that are saying the same things, that are getting you trying to buy stuff, or getting you trying to believe in certain things that is happening in the world. I just realized, like, yo, why would they do that? And it just makes sense to manipulate your mind and to manipulate your reality. So to to counter that, you definitely have to prayer. You definitely need to pray. You definitely need to affirm things that you need to do. So that's how I look at it. If you're gonna play around on this internet all day, you got to understand half of the stuff you read and see is not real. Well, 51% of it, right? So I do my best to try to interact with real people in real time that have real lives. And if you've been on the internet long enough, you probably know when something's real and something's fake, or, oh, this don't make sense. So the next part of that conversation, once you develop your plan from that conversation, you got to have something I call, like, the uncomfortable truth. And that's the biggest part of what I want to say. Because there's a lot of uncomfortable truths that you have to have with yourself or with that person, because some people, and I always say this, you got a circle. You got everybody who see you on the internet. They think of you one way. Then you got everybody who you grew up with. They think of you one way. Then you have your inner circle, like your family, that seen you grow up. They seen you go from a toddler to an adult, like your mom, your dad, your uncles, your aunties, and they know the inner you a little bit. And usually those are the people you got to have them conversations with. And what's even worse is you got to have a conversation with a person that really loves you, that really sees you for who you are. And I have people in my family that they're dodging conversations with me. And I got people in my family, my mother and my father, sometimes I'm dodging conversations with them because I know the uncomfortable truth. And sometimes if I sit back, now I got to have that conversation with myself. And being the most alpha version of yourself doesn't start with you being big and strong or you having a good job or you being the boss. It don't start with that. It start with you having that uncomfortable conversation. It start with you having that uncomfortable conversation with yourself sometimes. And the biggest thing when you have that uncomfortable conversation is, which brings me back to the first thing I said, you got to apologize to yourself. I was wrong. I was in denial. I do need to change. So, which brings me to the easy. Once you have that uncomfortable truth, you can stop blaming everybody else. At the end of the day, I can make 50 podcasts about accountability. That's what that is at the end of the day. You stop blaming everybody else. I remember a friend of mine, he was, I went through something with one of my ex-girlfriends. And he was like, man, I can't believe she did you like that. Da, 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 da. You should. Da, da. I'm like, I ain't doing nothing. It's not her fault. Because I knew who she was and I didn't want to have that uncomfortable truth. I didn't want to have that uncomfortable conversation with myself about her. Why I was drawn to her, because it was something in me that I had to change. That's the beautiful part about accountability. You could realize, oh man, they flawed. Oh, they this. Oh, they did me wrong. They snakes. You knew that was a snake when you picked it up, but you like the snake scales. You like the way the snake slithered. It's kind of like a tiger. It's like, you see how beautiful the tiger is. You know you ain't supposed to play with that tiger because it's gonna bite you. It might kill you. So it's the same thing. It's something inside of you that has to come out and say, you know what? I wasn't disciplined enough. I didn't have a plan for my life. A lot of us are in toxic situations because we don't have enough uncomfortable conversations with ourselves or with others. You get what I'm saying? I would date a certain type of woman and I would avoid bringing her around my mom. I'll date a certain type of woman and I wouldn't have a conversation with my mom because I know it's going to be super uncomfortable. She's going to point something out that I shouldn't be doing. I ain't raised you like that. This is not the type of woman I want you to marry. Because it's not because she's trying to be selfish. It's because I was raised a certain type of way and she wants me to do something different. And I was built to be a certain way. And the wrong woman in your life will deter you from being a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just letting y'all know that alpha male to alpha male, it's nothing else you can do about it. It's like, hey, this is bad for you, but if you keep doing it, you know what's going to happen. It's kind of like if you drink a drink, right? And it's alcohol. If you keep drinking, what's going to happen? You're going to get sick. Then you laying in the bed sick or you throwing up, you got that hangover, you got to have that real uncomfortable conversation with yourself. Hey, if I keep going this route, I'm not going to live long. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're not going to live long if you keep going that route. And I just wanted to get that off my chest, man. Some of you guys got to understand that, if you want to grow, growth starts when excuses end. If you want to grow, you got to stop making excuses. It's not an excuse. Oh, I don't have enough time to do what I need to do to get my body right. Man, you got one life to live. You might as well live it with some discipline and some uncomfortable truth and make it from there. Everybody who's great, they had to tell themselves they had to do something that was very uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying? So as I go through this lie, as I go through this, I do want to sit up there and say to anybody like, man, if you guys are going through anything, sometimes the truth is you got to stop blaming others. You got to stop blaming everybody else for your mistakes. Sometimes I had to do that. Oh, that person lied to me, but you knew they was gonna lie to you because they lied to you a couple times and you caught them in a lie, and they steady kept lying to you. Now what's different now? Because you got messed up even more. So I look at it like this: as we go through a lot of things, you'll have to see yourself for who you really are. And if you can't do that, you'll never be able to grow. If I want to lose weight and I'm overweight and I'm fat and I keep telling myself I'm skinny, it's a lie. Why lie to yourself, man? We got to stop lying to ourselves about all this stuff that's going on. We know, for example, I know I shouldn't spend 12 hours of my day online. A lot of people do it. I done did it before. You'll be less productive. Your mind is overstimulated. You're not even thinking. You're just letting everybody else think for you, letting online think for you. All of that. Why are we doing that? You can't look at that the same way as anything else. So I want you guys to understand that, like, I don't want you to be distracted. I want you to take your life seriously. You know, I think we should all take our lives seriously. Um, you gotta understand the difference between being distracted and having fun. You understand that? Being distracted and having fun, that will take you a long way. And you gotta understand the difference between a great man and a good man could be motivation and discipline. Because if I do this every time I'm just motivated to do this, I'm gonna stay in the same spot. Alphacology will drop, but if I stay disciplined, which basically is my consistency, then guess what? It'll rise. Anything you do, one thing I learned when I was researching YouTube, all the popular podcasts, one thing they all have in common: discipline. They all have discipline in common. Anything you do on, especially if you're trying to be a content creator, everything you do online, it has to be consistent. If you're not consistent, you won't get the views, you won't get the endorsements, you won't get the ads. So you have to stay consistent. Now, do I think that's the end all be all? Like, oh, I'm just gonna be a content creator and that's my life work. I don't look at it like that. Because at any moment, any day, they could shut your stuff down. Like me doing Alphacology. At one point, we was making money on YouTube, and they demonetized us, all because I didn't pay attention. And that's a big thing about me that I've been battling lately is paying attention. All I had to do was click. This is not for kids. No, it's not for kids. No, it's not for kids on all my videos. Did I do that? No. I didn't even know it was there. So they demonetized me and I had to start a whole new platform. Just like that. All that hard work, all I had to do was pay attention to something. And it's been hitting me in the face over and over and over again. Cause like this weekend, I went out and I can't believe I did this, but I spilled 3 drinks on myself. Three, one, two, 3 drinks. The same kind of way. It's all because I wasn't paying attention. I was distracted. And a lot of us, we're not at greatness yet because we're distracted. I know some of the best athletes I ever seen play football didn't make it as far as they should because they were distracted. I didn't make it as far as I could because I was distracted. Now, do that mean they're horrible people or they suck at life? No, it just means, hey, you got to focus, you got to lock in. Some of us have to lock in more than others. Some of it is natural. So some of us have to lock in and do what we need to do. Nobody's always lucky. You can't always get lucky. So you got to understand that. And when you have this conversation with yourself, when you discuss that plan, you got to discuss, man, what kind of money I'm going to make? Am I here to have a family? And I always say this: everything, especially in this modern day society we live in America, it's everything is anti-family. Our whole culture is built around being anti-family. Look at the music we listen to, and I'm gonna be honest, it's horrible. It's anti-family. All they talk about is destroying your life, tricking, doing drugs, killing people. If you listen to hip hop music, that's what it is. I don't know why they let it go that long, go that far. Um, None of that helps you build a family or a legacy. None of that. Tricking, spending money on hoes, that's tricking. Doing drugs, we already know what drugs do to your life. And killing people, we already know what killing people do to your life and others. That's anti-family bullshit. And but guess what? We listen to it every day. We let our kids listen to it. We let everybody influence us, but the right people. And I can't say it. My algorithm, if you let it, the algorithm will be filled with ghetto bullshit. So we gotta understand where we coming from with this. And like I always say, man, alphacology is here to stay. The best thing I can tell you is, man, have that conversation to get you to the next level. Sometimes you got to have it with somebody who really care. You got to have that conversation with somebody who really care about you. And I done had these conversations a couple times. I had a couple conversations with a couple cats. I was like, I don't know why you said that, but I needed to hear that. Because now I got to tell myself the same thing, man. Remember the apology, the discipline, the boundary, the prayer, the plan, and the uncomfortable truth. Stop blaming everybody for why you ain't on the next level. Like I always say, this has been Alphacology. Go ahead and tune in to my YouTube. Follow me, Alphacology1K, on YouTube and Instagram. Like I always say, this is not tea, this is protein. Peace out.